Hey, this is Kelly from the Dolly Rocks.
This is Joe Queer from the Infamous Queers.
Hey, Sleepy P. Martini.
Hey, this is Indica Flowers.
And you are listening to
Our Brains Hurt.
Our Brains Hurt.
Our Brains Hurt.
Losers.
Well, they needed a jingle for their stupid little show, so they called up the Jasons and we said, fuck no. Then they called us again and they gave us $20 and we wrote them a song that said, your podcast sucks. Then they gave us more money and they asked us really nice and we finally gave in and we said, all right, I'll write you a song, but it's gonna be a clone of a Screeching Weasel song that we heard a while ago. So we wrote them a jingle and it sounded really rad. It was the best little jingle that their podcast ever had, but the file got corrupted and the email didn't work. Now they're stuck without a jingle singing Our Brains Hurt. Our brains hurt, our brains hurt, our brains hurt. Our brains hurt, our brains hurt, our brains hurt. Our brains hurt, our brains hurt, our brains hurt. Our brains hurt, our brains hurt, our brains hurt. In a very non-copyright infringing sort of way.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Our Brains Hurts. This episode is brought to you by PunkBox. If you're looking for an awesome gift idea for yourself or for somebody else, head over to punkboxrocks.com. That's punkboxrocks.com. Sign up for their awesome monthly punk rock merch subscription service. Each month, a box of merch will be sent to your house. Stuff you would normally find at a merch table at a punk show. Things could include cassettes, CDs, vinyl, patches, buttons, pins, coffee, all sorts of cool shit. You never know what you're going to get. It's an awesome gift. Head over to punkboxrocks.com. This show is also brought to you by Merch Slut. Head over to merchslut.com for awesome band t-shirts, punk rock band t-shirts. Merch Slut gets her shirts directly from the band or the label. These are not cheap knockoffs. She also has a wide array of awesome punk rock merch. Merchslut.com. Also, don't forget, next month we have two shows coming up. August 30th at the Pie Shop in DC, Belvedere, coming down from Canada, playing with Paperback Tragedy, Idle Minds, and Morals. That's Wednesday, August 30th at the Pie Shop. Go to pieshopdc.com for tickets. And September 2nd at DC9, Dolly Rots. We'll be here with Tsunami Bomb, Over Our Eyes, and Dead End Lane. So head over to DC9 and get your tickets for that. Two awesome shows, just a few days apart. All right, that's all for the business stuff. Now, let's get to the show. So tonight we're talking to Joe Raposo.
Yeah,
of RKL and nothing else. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, yeah. Lagwagon and RKL fame. Yeah.
Yep. That's crazy to be like 17. I mean, I was just getting into punk rock at 17, and he was just getting into one of the most influential punk bands at 17. Like,
seems insane, that once upon a time, so many people did so many things at such a young age,
Yeah.
You don't see too many people anymore doing things at young
doing
age.
Anything. Not even going outside.
And it's not even that far misplaced. Even when we were that age, I went on my first little tour when I was 17.
Yep.
Not that I had the success of like some other people, but still,
But you were doing the damn thing, man.
You don't fucking see people at that age doing that shit nowadays. Like,
no.
It's like almost an impossibility.
Dude, I think we grew up at the perfect time.
Yeah, well,
I think we did. Because I think we're not only were we able to experience all of that freedom and actually having to go out and do stuff, but we're also young enough to enjoy the new technology.
Yeah, I mean, there's that mixed in there too.
Yeah, so whenever, getting back to Joe, like whenever we used to like talk about bass players, we used to always say, besides Matt Freeman, who is the best punk rock bass player. But I got to tell you, man.
I mean, he's got to be up there.
He's
got to be.
If you go watch video of RKL playing Blocked Out, he's like, it looks like he's possessed. I don't know how the fuck he's playing something. It's just insane. It's absolutely, and he looks like he's 7 years old. I mean, he's only 17 at the time, but it's the craziest looking thing.
I remember, I used to be, I mean, I still am a big Lagwagon fan, but I used to be like really big Lagwagon fan.
Yeah.
And I remember when their old bassist, Jesse, like Buglione or something like that was his last name. I remember when he announced that he was leaving or whatever, I was like so pissed because I was like, oh my God, he's such a fucking rad bassist.
Yeah.
Like, how the fuck are they ever going to replace a dude like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then like, next album, I
Yeah.
hear it. I'm like, oh, wow, who's this dude? And I was like, oh shit, it's the guy from fucking RKL.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, they did good.
Oh, Joe's in the room.
Hey, dudes.
Hey, what's up, Joe?
What's happening?
How you guys doing?
Good, man. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, no problem.
You said you were filling in for Scott Shiflett.
Yeah. So I got the opportunity. Well, at first, I got a text from Trevor from Face to Face, and he said, hey, Scott's on tour with Eagles of Death Metal, and would you like to fill in on bass for Face to Face? And that was like in, I believe, early June or something like that. And I said, yeah, like, what's the details? What's going on? Like, how long is the set list? Blah, blah, blah. And he said it was just for a one-off. And then I was kind of like, okay, well, if it's just a one-off, I was thinking to myself, can I negotiate for like more money or something? Or how much should I ask them? Because I don't know what the etiquette is for these types of things,
Yeah.
I've done work before, and usually, just to come in and kind of hack something out. I like to just ask for $1,000 even. I guess that's fair, but that's a lot for one show, especially if you're doing like, I know Hired Guns and they don't even make that much a show. I guess if you have a whole tour, you're making more money anyway. So it's like, if you ask for 1,000 off of every show, that's kind of like, that might be too much. I don't know, man, but like a one-off, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I'm going to go and do all this fucking work, but I'm not going to make more than, whatever I'm being paid for, because I'm going to spend like countless hours learning this shit. Right.
Yeah.
So I digress. So like, I was like thinking to myself, like how much should I owe? Blah, blah, blah. And then when I was thinking about shit, I think I waited too long, because I answered back and I was like, okay, yeah, I'll do it. And they said, oh, we already got another guy to do it. Sorry, we had too many feelers out. I was like, fuck. Oh man. Because I really wanted to do it, like Lagwagon wasn't really doing much, and it was perfect timing. And so I thought to myself, yeah, this would be rad. Then the gig got taken away from me. And so I was like, okay, well, fuck, I'm kind of bummed out about that, but oh well, and then about 3 weeks before the gig, I got another call back, and the person who was going to do it couldn't do it. And so I got called back to do it.
Nice. And it was in Canada?
It was in Quebec, Chicoutimi or Chicoutimi. I don't know how to pronounce that in French, but yeah, it was in Quebec, Canada, and I was stoked that I got the call back because I really wanted to do it. But I was really fucking kind of mad too, because when I started learning the songs, I was like, okay, first 3 songs of the set, like I got this shit. And then the 4th song was Walk the Walk. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with Face to Face's stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, so it was Walk the Walk. And I was like, oh fuck, this bass line is kind of fucking like hard to do, because there's just a picking style. Like I mean, every bass player has like their own bag of tricks, right? You know what I mean? Or I like to think like whatever's kind of easiest for them to do. But it ends up not being easy for other people to do. And I'm not even sure if that was easy for Scott to do or not. I mean, I've learned some No Effects songs that Mike does, and Mike has this weird like up picking stroke thing that he does. It's just insane. It's like, it doesn't feel natural. You don't pick up, like, up is not on the 1, down's on the 1. Like, that's really how you feel, playing styles. It's like, no, man, like down picking, like the Ramones or something. You think Johnny Ramone fucking ever up picked in his life?
Nope.
But yeah, man, it's like all this up picking shit, and I was like, fuck, man. So it took me about like 2 hours to learn Walk the Walk, And I was like, fuck, man, I got this shit. Now I've like, opened the secret sauce, and I'm like, I got you, Scott. I fucking got you. I know what you're doing. And then I thought to myself, I'm like, oh, wait, I'm playing it to album speed.
Yeah.
I need to fucking watch a video and see how fast they're playing it live.
Yeah.
And so first video I fucking see, and then I've noticed this for face to face, is like every show they ever play is like fucking double speed. It's just ridiculous. I mean, I know all bands speed up live. I mean, that's kind of like par for the course.
Mhm.
You want to make the show a little bit, have a little bit more energy, and have it go down a little bit, a little wilder, like I guess, get the crowd going, right? But dude, face to face is insane how fast they play their songs live. I'm like, what the fuck? Then I'm like trying to play it the way I learned it, and I couldn't play it. I'm like, God damn. Fuck you, Scott Shiflett. Fuck you. And then I had to go back to the drawing board and then learn it again so I can play it at that speed. And I was just like, so it took me 4 hours to learn Walk the Walk, that just the bass line.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, that's a gnarly bass line. It really is.
It is, but I was pleasantly surprised to find out that when I learned that picking style, a lot of other picking styles that he had, like for songs like Bet But Not Broken, they're all very similar. And same thing with Fat Mike too, The Idiots Are Taking Over, that bass line. It's just, it's like once you learn it, then you've got the secret sauce. Then you're like, okay, I know what they're doing. And then when you learn that trick, you're kind of like, you know what they're doing. You're like, okay, I got this now. It'll still take a little bit of time to figure out, but it'll be easier. And it was easier, like after I learned Walk the Walk. So all that time I spent learning it, was worth it. So
yeah. Well, it's funny you mentioned Fat Mike, because I've heard numerous interviews of him, or when he does this like this bass thing he does on YouTube where he plays a song, he talks about you and RKL as no effects trying to be like RKL, but never being as good as RKL, which I agree with, by the way. But what got you into learning music? Are you just gifted in that way? Did you go to classes? Did you study it, or how did you get into music, like when you were a kid?
Well, I mean, I've always felt like a connection with music, even when I was young. I mean, I kind of like would feel music, and I don't know how anybody else feels music. You know what I mean? But and everybody's connected to music, so it's not like my experience is different than anybody else's. But I for me personally, I've always had like, kind of like a deep connection. I've always like listened to things. Even when I was young, like I remember, being 6 or 7 years old and telling my dad to turn on the radio every time we would go into a car or something. And my brother and sister were older than me. Well, still are, but they were older than me at the time. And, so they didn't get any younger than me. But yeah, so they would tell my dad to switch channels and stuff. And like, no matter what channel was on, I always like had like a connection to music. So I think I always felt it when I was a kid. But my parents, they're Portuguese. They come from the Azore Islands, and music is a huge part of that culture. So I would have experiences with my parents having parties at the house, and when I was really young, and my cousins and friends would come over, and they would have acoustic guitars, accordions, stuff like that, playing traditional, Portuguese music from the Azore Islands. That's where they're from. They're from the island of San Miguel in the Azores. Cool. And so they would play that music, and I just remember me and my brother just being totally like mesmerized by it, like like watching them play the whole time. They were just partying, and I remember that that me and my brother we tried to make like our first guitars out of like a 2x4 and rubber bands and shit like that. So like we already had the bug, but we didn't like have the means to figure out, you know, like how to play or whatever, you know, but we tried to make like these guitars out of 2x4s and nails and rubber bands and stuff. And then when we got a little bit older, my brother, I want to say that he was probably 12 and I was maybe 8 around then. Mm-hmm. And he went out and bought his first electric guitar and amp at that age. And I remember when he got that, I was just like, oh my God, this is like the greatest thing ever. Of course he never let me touch his guitar, but when he went to school, you know, of course I had to play it or try to play it, you know what I mean? And I got caught lots of times and got in trouble and shit like that. And I have more stories about that as well. But yeah, so my brother started playing, and then because I started playing his guitar, I guess he complained to my mom and dad, and my mom and dad bought me my first acoustic guitar for my 8th birthday. So probably that was like when I was 7. I remember this, and it was a Montgomery Ward's guitar, really cheap. I didn't really know how to play anything on it, but they got me the guitar when I was 8, and I just remember like not even being able to fret, but just being home all the time and plucking open notes and thinking I was like making songs, you know? So yes, it started at an early age, for sure. And then when I got a little bit older, I didn't have my own gear, but I think right around when I was 12 or 13, Dave Ron, you know, was the first drummer that I ever played with and lived right around the corner from the house. So whenever my brother went out to ride bikes or he was like at his job, I think at this point he was working for like Round Table Pizza or something like that. Mm-hmm. I would steal his guitar and amp and skateboard it over to Dave Ron's house. Like just blatantly fucking like steal his shit. And go to Dave Ron's house and we would jam, you know, like for 30 minutes or like 40 minutes. I remember I didn't want to get caught. And boy, I got caught. I got caught red-handed at times, like wheeling the fucking shit on the skateboard while my dad was like cruising with his friends up on his BMX bike type of shit.
That might be the most punk rock sentence ever said. I stole my brother's amp and guitar and rode my skateboard to Dave Ron's house.
Yeah, man. And Dave Ron, all he had at that time was a kick drum, a snare drum, a hi-hat. And I remember for toms, he was using a 5-gallon bucket.
Nice.
Yes.
So he was just acquiring his kit too, you know, and we just make up fucking stupid songs. I think I knew like bar chords or something else like that. But you know, my brother was really cool too. I mean, he really didn't want me touching his shit, but he also taught me a lot of stuff too, you know. So you know, thanks to my brother, Manuel, if you're out there, thank you so much. For influencing me, because like I always wanted to be like my big brother. I mean, everything that I had was handed down from him. So I had it like his old Sim skateboard was handed down to me. His old like Mongoose BMX bike was handed down to me. You know what I mean? And I always wanted to be like my brother because I thought he was so cool. So that in turn, like I wanted to play guitar because my brother played guitar too. And so he taught me a thing or two, you know, and he was into metal, like all kinds of metal, but he played in like, you know, 80s hair metal bands in high school and stuff like that. So he was like a real shredder guitar. I mean, like a lead guitar player, you know. So he taught me some stuff. And so I think that's like kind of where I excelled a little bit at guitar, but I never owned my own guitar except for like acoustic guitar. I never went out and bought like my own electric guitar. It was like I always played friends or my brother's hand-me-downs or whatever, right? It wasn't until I was in high school and I was a freshman in high school that since I was skateboarding at the time, and then in middle school the year before, I had met a bunch of other skateboarders who were into like punk rock and shit, and that was like around 13 or 14 years old is when I started getting into punk rock from the skateboard scene, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought that was like the best thing ever. And then when I went to high school in freshman year, I started, you know, meeting all of the like metalheads and the punkers and the skate punks and like we were listening to basically everything, because in the Bay Area, I think the Bay Area in California was like really super diverse as far as music's concerned. I mean, the metal scene has always been integrated with the punk scene and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
And even music just in general, like was, you know, kind of a big thing. I mean, you got San Francisco. I mean, the music scene in San Francisco at that time in the early 80s was just fucking going off, no matter what you listen to, you know? Yeah. And so I just got together with a whole bunch of people who loved music and were passionate about music. And a buddy of ours, Joe Markey, he was probably like the craziest guy in high school. He sold acid and shit, and he sold drugs, and and he had a mohawk, you know, and he listened to punk and he listened to metal. And he collected records. Well, he figured out a way to like procure a bunch of gear and just set it up at his house. Like, and then he came to school one day and he's just like, hey, anybody know how to play any instruments or anything? You know, I got like all this stuff in my house, in the garage. And dude, I'll buy you guys up beer and let's go fucking hang out after school. And just like ultimately ended up being like cutting school every day to go either skateboarding or go jam at Joe's house. And so when we were there, everybody wanted to play guitar, you know? Mm-hmm. So it was like, everybody knew how to play guitar. I wanted to play guitar, but like everybody wanted to play guitar. So I didn't have an opportunity to play guitar, but no one wanted to play bass. Yeah. So it was like, fuck it, man. I'll just try to play bass. And then that was the first time I ever played bass, and I never went back from there. Like, as far as that being my main instrument, that was like, oh my God, this thing rules. I could play it like a lead guitar, you know? And it only has 4 strings and it sounds huge. And so that was it, man. That was it at that point. Like I was a bass player. And I think it was like around 15, 16 years old at that point.
Was that the beginnings of RKL?
The beginnings of RKL came a couple of years later after that.
Mm-hmm. Same place or in a different spot?
Still in the Bay Area. Yeah.
Oh, but not in the same house.
But not in the same house. No, okay. That wasn't the beginnings of RKL. If you guys are RKL fans, then you know that the beginnings happened in Southern California, Santa Barbara area, specifically Montecito, Summerland.
Like Nardcore, that whole like Nardcore scene, Oxnard.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So
even though they weren't Oxnard.
Yeah. So yeah, Oxnard was close enough, right? You know what I mean? Like it was, I mean, Ventura, Santa Barbara, it's still a ways away, but it's still close enough. You know what I mean? So that's why they got involved with the scene, but mostly branded as Nardcore because RKL signed to Mystic Records.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even though they were a Santa Barbara band. So they did move to San Francisco in the late 80s, or I want to say probably mid 80s. And so that's how I connected with them.
Okay. And how did you get hooked up with them? Like, because I mean, if you just started playing bass, like, this is what's amazing to me. Like, you started playing bass when you were 15 or 16 and you were in fucking RKL at 17. Like, that's fucking bonkers to me. Because I was just telling Matt before you came on, like, I started getting into punk rock at 16 and 17, and you were getting into like one of the most influential punk bands of all time that's at 17. So how did that happen? Like, how did you go from, playing bass for the first time at 15 and being in RKL at 17?
Yeah, I mean, it was a trip. Like, I couldn't believe it either, because I was a huge RKL fan. In fact, like me and my buddy Dave Cotter and everybody we grew up with and even played in bands with and stuff, at the time. By the way, like in that garage, Dave Cotter, my buddy Dave Cotter, was the drummer in that garage too, and we ended up being in other high school bands at that time too. With Sean Yearsy, Dan Jung was singing. We had a band called Terminal Rage.
Nice.
And then we changed the name, and I don't know why, but maybe it sounded more metal or punk. It went from Rage to Terminal Oppression.
Nice.
But yeah, so I was jamming with Dave Cotter at the time, and we all, like me and our friends and my skateboard friends and everything, we basically we didn't get kicked out of school, but we had skipped school so much to skateboard in San Francisco, and we also had a high school that was up in the hills in San Mateo. Mm-hmm. That's where I grew up, in San Mateo, and so we would go hill bombing and hill sliding almost every day. We just spend like lunch that would turn into 6th, 7th, and 8th period, and just bomb hills all day.
Master that speed wobble.
Yeah, exactly. Power. It's all about power slides, man.
Mm-hmm.
Flat spots. And power slides.
At least it was back then.
Yeah. So we left that high school to go to a continuation school. And so when we were at the continuation school.
What's a continuation school? What's that?
Continuation school is a school that caters to students that don't really fit the criteria for normal high school, so
gotcha.
So you'd get like kids that were in juvie that had to make up time.
The pregnant girls, right?
The pregnant girls.
Yeah, we had them. Yeah, we had them here too.
Yeah.
They call them
So we had yearbooks at Peninsula, and we'd have our yearbook pictures, and there would be mothers with their babies in the yearbook pictures. Mm-hmm. and it's funny too, because I still have some yearbooks here, and in some of the pictures, the like baby's head is cut off, like on the bottom. Pretty rad. But yeah, so we went to Peninsula, and then we started our own band past Terminal Rage, Terminal Oppression, and we were basically like like kind of a RKL like ripoff band. Like we were playing the same style, we were writing the same style, because when Keep Laughing came out, we were just like, oh my god, dude, this album rips. It this is one of our favorite albums. It was like kind of progressing a little bit more from the Nardcore comps and the EPs and stuff. And so our band sounded like RKL, so we were already playing that style of music. Well, one day Dave was up in the city on Haight Street, as we did a lot back in those days, to score drugs and get acid and do acid and shit like that. And Dave ran across a flyer that said RKL was looking for a bass player.
Wow.
At that time. And I want to say that this was probably, 86 or 87. I'm thinking probably early 87. And he had, approached me and said, look, dude, RKL is looking for a bass player. It's like, he's like, I think you're good enough. You should totally call and just see what happens, And at that point, like, I was only playing bass for about a year or so. And I was like, I'm not good enough. I had a lot of self-doubt. And plus I wanted to be like a pro skateboarder at that time. We were like skating every day. And that was like my life, like art and skateboarding was like my life. And I was like, I just want to skate. Like I'm cool playing in a band, with you, and I'm having fun playing music, but I don't think I want to get serious about it. Plus I'm only 17 or 16, however old I was like, do I want to go tour? Do I want to do this? I didn't even know the world of that at that time.
How old were the rest of RKL at that time? Like early 20s?
I want to say they were in their late teens. I think
Okay.
Barry at that point was the only one who could buy alcohol, I think.
Okay.
Everybody else was close. I think Bomber was a little bit older, so he was getting up there, but Barry was already 21. Chris Rest, I believe, was like 18 or 19 years old. I think everybody was around the same age. Bomber was a little bit older, I believe. But yeah, so everybody was like older than me. Late teens, in their 20s, and so I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. And then one day, Dave gave me a call and he's like, hey man, I'm gonna go up to the city or something like that. He's like, do you want to hang today? Do something, blah blah blah. And I'm like, yeah, cruise over. So he cruised over and he said, well, grab your bass. You know what I mean? And he's like, well, we might jam later or something. So I was like, okay. So I grabbed my bass, and then we're heading to San Francisco. I'm like, oh, dude, we're heading to the city. Like, what's up? What are we doing today? He's like, dude, don't get pissed at me, but I set up an audition for you for RKL, and we're going there fucking right now. And I was like, what the fuck? And I remember being super fucking pissed and, like nervous and like all this other shit. And I was just like, what the fuck? Wasn't prepared, didn't practice, And then I guess about like after 10 or 20 minutes later, I got over it. And I'm like, well, fuck it. We're just going to have fun. And it ended up being in Marin. So it was quite a drive from San Mateo, probably about like an hour and a half, hour, 40 minutes. And we got to Bomber's mom's house, and Bomber and Barry were supposed to be there, but they weren't there. So she was just like, go ahead and just kick back in his room, and we're just sitting there, and we're just like, for like probably about 20 or 30 minutes, I was like, sweating buckets and so nervous. And we're just sitting into some random room, just go, what the fuck is going to happen? Are these guys going to even show up? It was pretty insane. And then they showed up, and it was like super casual. The one thing I remember is Bomber just he just got done getting over hepatitis. And so he was just all, oh man, he's like, dude, I just been really sick, and I apologize. And he looked pretty lethargic too, and then Barry's up in there, and it was just like, it was kind of intimidating, these were some pretty rough looking characters for
So this is the first time you met them. You're in his bedroom before he even gets there.
Yeah.
And he's got hepatitis.
Yeah. It's these dudes are punk, they're fucking rugged as fuck. They smell, they fucking, they're dressed, differently, like, I mean, we thought we were punk, but these dudes were the real deal, and so like Bomber asked, they didn't have an amp or anything else like that. They didn't even have another bass there. So it was a good thing I brought my bass, like they weren't prepared for this audition either at all. So it was totally unprofessional.
In typical punk rock fashion.
It was just fucking weird. Put it that way. It was just like, Palmer's mom is a full hippie, and she's all like, oh, like, wow, it's like, you guys want to hit this joint? Like, he'll be back. He'll be back. Just go in his room, have fun. Let me know if you guys need anything. It was so gnarly. But I grabbed my bass, and he's like, here, play something. And I played like the songs that, we wrote for the band that we were in. And they sounded like RKL songs. And I guess they were like, okay, well, at least this guy can actually play something, and they're like, okay, man, well, that's cool. The songs, sound like Keep Laughing and everything. And that's cool. You'll be able to play those songs without any issues, I guess. But check this out. This is our new album, and we just recorded it. It's not out yet, but here's the demo for it. Here's the rough mix.
Mhm.
And so Dave and I left, and they said, we'll give you a call.
Mhm.
And we left with a copy of Rock and Roll Nightmare, a cassette copy of Rock and
damn.
Roll Nightmare.
Do you still have that?
Yeah. Before
You still have it?
No.
Oh,
I think
damn it.
I bet you that Dave probably has that and cherishes it. So
Oh, that's a gem. That's a punk rock gem right there.
yeah. And I mean, it was, it was recorded on it was dubbed on a TDK or something like that. You know what I mean? But we listened to it on the way home, and I was like, Dave, fuck no, I can't fucking play this shit. Are you serious? But we were, because we listened to everything. We listened to rock because my brother listened to rock, we listened to prog rock. We were Rush fans, so we knew about this progressive thing, but we never heard anybody ever do it with punk rock. I mean, of course, we listened to, No Means No, and other bands like that. So there were bands out there that were progressive, but nothing like fucking Rock and Roll Nightmare. I mean, it was insane. Yeah. And I thought, I'm not going to be able to play this, but this is rad. We got to meet some of our heroes, and we got a tape of the new album. We listened to it all the way home. And I think we even went back to Dave's house and listened to it like 3 more times. And then I just never expected to get a call back, and I got a call back, and they said, well, yeah, I think the next step is for you to just come by the house, and it was Bomber, and he's like, I played bass on the album, so come over and I'll try to teach you a couple of songs off the album. And I told him, I'm like, I don't think I'm going to be able to play this stuff, and I don't think that you'll be able to teach me, but I'll give it a shot. So for the second audition, it was like in the Haight-Ashbury district, the Panhandle near like Golden Gate Park and stuff. That's where they were living at the time. And so my buddy who I skated with, who also has a podcast, I don't know if you guys heard this podcast called Talking Schmidt.
It sounds familiar to me.
I've heard of that podcast. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's my buddy Greg Smith, and I skateboarded with him for ages in the 80s. Like,
nice.
And he drove me to my second audition. So I think it was after we were skateboarding or whatever. So thanks, Greg Smith, Schmitty. I appreciate that too. And so the second audition, I was there, and it was pretty rad because that was the pad that they lived in. And they were pretty much there just jamming like all day. Yeah, Barry lived there, Bomber lived there, Dan Seitz lived there. In fact, Dan Seitz was drawing the comic book for Rock and Roll Nightmare at that time. So when I was in the room learning Rock and Roll Nightmare songs, Dan Seitz was in there drawing the comic book the whole time.
Nice.
So that was pretty rad.
Do copies of that still exist anywhere? Do you know?
Only in the original pressing.
Okay.
The Alchemy pressing, I believe. When Epitaph re-released it, they did not include the comic book because CDs were more prominent than LPs.
Yeah.
And I guess they could have just put it in the liners, but that would have cost a lot too. That probably would have been too expensive. So as far as I know, the only copies are in the Alchemy releases, the LP releases. Yeah. And I still have one, so nice. I can say at least that I have one. But they also have one at the Punk Rock Museum too.
Oh, cool!
Yeah, sweet. Who gave that up? Do you know?
I don't know who donated the album and stuff and the comic book. I have no idea, but it's in there.
Nice.
I wonder if it was Mike's.
It might have been. I know they got a lot of the stuff from us, like the original, or not original, but the band members, And so it may be Barry Ward who donated it. I don't know. So at that time, to continue with my rambling story, I went up and learned, and I believed one of the first songs was like Hangover, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So they had me like basically thrown into the fire to see if I could handle it or not. And it was a good thing that I knew how to play some lead guitar that my brother taught me how to play, because basically it was just like playing a solo on bass, you know? And then I was able to keep up. By the time I was done with that audition, I had learned Hangover, and then this continued for about like 3 different auditions. Then I learned Blocked Out. I learned Tribute to the Jester, and then I learned a bunch of other ones. And I think by the 4th time, Balmer was like, well, you totally got these songs. If you want the position, if you want to be in the band, you got the fucking position, you know? And for me, it was just like, I didn't really care if I was going to get it or not. It was just fun to learn that, because it was like excelling my bass playing, you know, and my musicianship so much. And it was kind of like, to me, getting like free lessons from your heroes. And I was just like, I don't care either way. This is just the fucking coolest thing ever. And then I got the gig.
And I would have to imagine by like your 3rd time back, you would have to have been like thinking like, I think these guys like what I'm doing. This is the 3rd time I'm coming back, you know, and then you know, somewhere in the back of your mind, you know.
And I believe that I did, but I didn't want to be that person and be like, so what's up? You get the gig, and, bro. I got this shit right. I'm fucking killing it, right? You know, for me, it was just I was a kid and I was having fun, and it was just all good. So when I did find out, I was like, oh, radical. And then they're like, okay, well, we're gonna see if we can get booked at like a day. I think it was like a day at the farm or a day at the farm. I forget what it's called. And the farm in San Francisco was basically like a pretty big music venue. It was right by a park, and I forget the name of the park, but there's a skate park there right now. But it was right by a park, and it must have held like, I think like 1,500 people. It was like a huge venue, and a lot of big bands played there. I remember seeing Bad Brains there. Nice. One of my first shows there was Wasted Youth.
Nice.
And so they had one of those day at the farms, and that was like the first gig that I ever played with RKL was at one of those day at the farms. And I think it was like like Verbal Abuse played, MDC played, and there were a bunch of people there. And so basically my whole mission after about the 4th audition was to, you know, get ready to play one of those day at the farms. And so that definitely happened. And after that, it was kind of like, okay, well, let's go on tour and let's do this and let's do that. And my parents were so supportive and just like really cool with it all. Probably because my brother played music too at that point and was in bands and stuff like that, that they were just like, okay, well, you know, that's cool. Just be careful and take care of yourself and blah, blah, blah. And of course, you know, I had the guys come over and meet my parents. They wanted to meet the dudes. And so they hung out at my house and they met my parents, and my parents really liked them a lot. They could be really charming guys when they
when they wanted to be.
That's cool. I mean, that was going to be my next question. Like, you know, how your parents, is it true that you had to, I read somewhere that your parents had to kind of sign over, not like maybe guardianship to somebody because you were 17, you were going over to Europe to tour?
Yeah, it was legal guardianship, and we were so after we played like some gigs, we went and did some shows, and we did a bunch of shows in San Francisco. We played at Gilman Street. We played a bunch of times at like the Berkeley Square, Ruthie's Inn, you know, and at Santa Barbara. LA, I believe too, San Diego. So we were like kind of seasoned at that point. And so we had an opportunity to tour in Europe. And I was still 17 at the time. And so, my parents weren't going to let me go to Europe. They're like, California's cool. There's no fucking way that you're going overseas to Europe. You're only 17 years old. You haven't fucking graduated high school. You're falling behind. You know what I mean? Like, they're just like, there's no way. And so I was pretty bummed, and I told the dudes, and we didn't know what was going to happen. I believe like some of them tried to talk to my parents, but they weren't having it. And since I went to a continuation high school, like teachers and principals and staff, they were really approachable. They really wanted to help the troubled kids that went, and they were really supportive. And so no matter what your problem was, they were really super open to help you out and try to do whatever they could to help the kids out. And so we had the coolest principal, Doc, and he always went out to classrooms and would talk to kids, and he would joke around, and he was such a cool principal. He's like an older dude, always wore a suit, pinstripe suit. He had one of those handlebar mustaches, it was just like kind of big and just like jolly, you know what I mean? But like super fucking cool. Like, he was the coolest principal ever. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna fucking talk to Doc about this. You know what I mean? I'm gonna tell him about what's going on and see what he thinks. And so I set up some time with him to meet in his office, and I told him my whole story and everything. And he's like, Joe, you gotta do this. He's like, you're going to a continuation high school. That there's people who have like, a 4.0 grade average that aren't even getting this opportunity to go to Europe. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, you have to go. He's like, you're going to learn so much more going on this trip than you're ever going to learn in school. And I told him about like where we were going to go. And so I told him like, that Dave Pollock lived in Berlin, and I would be spending a lot of time in Berlin. And he's like, just that right there was just like, you're going to learn so much about history. And he was just like, you got to do this. And I'm like, well, how am I going to go? How am I going to be able to do this? And he's like, let me figure it out. I'm going to do some research, and then I'm going to call your parents and I'll talk to them.
Wow.
And so he did his research and everything. And I think the legal guardianship was his idea, part my sister's idea. And thank you, Anna, my sister, for supporting me too at that time, because she really had my back on this and really wanted me to go through. So I she talked to my parents as well. But Doc called and talked to my mom and dad, and was on the phone with my dad for probably about an hour. And by the time my dad was done talking to him, he sat me down. We had a conversation, and he asked a bunch of questions, like, I'm going to fuck around or fuck off and do all this other shit. You're going to play music. You're going to do this. And then you're going to go back to high school. When you get back, you're not going to drop out, blah, blah, blah. Because I had to take like 2.5 months off of my senior year to go do this. So that meant that I would be on the 5-year plan or at the continuation school, 4.5, right, to make up my. So after we had the talk, he was just like, okay, this is how it's going to go down. I want someone to be totally responsible for you while you're there. And have legal guardianship, and we'll let you go if you go back to school, all these stipulations, and they were cool with it and let me go. So I didn't believe in the next couple of weeks, Barry came down because he was the oldest dude in the band. We went to a notary public. We had a document like drawn out. We had it notarized, and I carried it with me, or I think Barry carried it with me, like everywhere we went in Europe. And that was it. I was in Europe with RKL. We were.
That's awesome.
We
It's like
went to
the
European tour. Yeah.
It's like the plot to an 80s movie, like for real. Like,
Yeah.
like I've never heard of a story of a high school principal talking somebody's parents into letting them go on tour with a band to Europe.
Yeah. Like how
I've never even
lucky-
heard of anything close. As a matter of fact, the stories I've always heard are the exact opposite.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a great guy that dude is. Like,
Yeah.
so you're so lucky to have that guy in your life. Like, that's crazy, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. A game changer, life changer, like when they say in life that if you close yourself to opportunities or people in this world due to your own personal hangups, you will never get to experience what it is you're missing in life, your opportunities. It's like you always have to be open. You always have to be nice to everybody you meet. You just, if you close yourself off, or if you're afraid of anything, nothing's ever going to happen for you. And that was pretty much kind of like just meeting Doc and knowing he was the only dude that I can talk to at that time. And yeah, it was a high school principal. He was very approachable, but like, yeah, I would have to go in there and I got popped getting stoned on campus, and I was in trouble a lot at that school. We would the fucking pool was empty, and we would get kicked out of the fucking pool every day for skating it, and we'd have to go to detention and shit. So I wasn't exactly your model student, you know what I mean? But I still was like, I'm gonna go and talk to him anyways, and he was like super cool. So let that be a lesson to everybody,
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to pursue your dreams and talk to whoever you need to at your disposal to get them done.
Yeah, we need more docs.
Yeah, shout out to Doc wherever you are in the universe, buddy.
Yeah.
He died about I want to say probably about 30 years ago.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I had heard that he died when I was in my mid-20s. So
Okay.
Yeah, so it's been a spell. But yeah, that I thought it was super radical. And yes, that probably needs to be a screenplay I should write one of these
For
days.
real.
For sure.
Like, somebody would buy that for sure. That is a movie worthy story. It really is.
I mean, a band called Rich Kids on LSD too. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
When you think of that whole fucking bag, it's like, I had to tell Doc, like, he's like, well, what's the name of the band? Maybe I've heard of you guys. And even my parents too. It's like,
maybe you have
a band called Rich Kids on LSD. Fuck no, you aren't. Fuck you. You insane? You're going off to military school right now.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes it even better.
Yeah.
There could be some funny moments in there too.
Oh yeah.
There were some funny moments in there. So
Yeah.
I'm sure plenty.
That's cool. It's just really cool that you crossed paths with a guy like that, and he was there when, at that time when you needed him to be there. It's just really cool how the universe works like that.
Yeah. And I mean, dude, like this school was pretty fucked up, but it was the coolest school I ever went to. But it was, there were a lot of troubled kids there. You know what I mean? Like this one kid that I went to school there, super cool, always carried around a Coke can, right? But it was crumpled up and shit. And we were just like, what the fuck? And then we put two and two together. We're like, oh, he's fucking huffing paint or fucking something that, probably, And dude, it's true. He was huffing fucking liquid paper, and he died.
Oh shit! From that?
No.
From that,
damn.
inhalation poisoning.
Oh shit!
So that just goes to show you, man. Like, and there were criminals, like just straight up criminals, like right out of juvie,
Yeah.
And it was insane. So like for Doc to do that for someone, that was awesome. And also my art teacher there too. I have to hand it to Jane as well, because Jane really helped me graduate, because I was really lacking in a lot of credits at that school. or just
Yeah.
in my high school program, like I was flunking English, I was flunking math. I had to make up all those credits, and at the continuation high school at Peninsula, they made it pretty easy for you to do that. I mean, you didn't have to, learn geometry at that point in order to do it. You just had to take tests, like equivalent to a GED or something, in order to pass the classes. But Jane was so cool that she pulled some kind of way for me to get a bunch of credits for like math and English by being in leadership. So leadership had not existed in that high school whatsoever. We never had any kind of like class presidents, secretaries, none of that stuff. And so she helped establish that. And we had class presidents and stuff like that. And then in leadership class, I was responsible, or me and my friend Mike and Mike Alcantar and a bunch of other people were like responsible for getting us like a yearbook. Like it never had a yearbook up until that point too, or a graduation, like a dress graduation.
Nice.
Like she helped all those things come together to give us like a real high school experience in that school. And I was a big proponent of it because I was getting a bunch of those credits, for doing that. So it was cool. I drew like 2 yearbook covers and stuff like that, and all this art in it. And we got to put it all together, and there were like photographers. My buddy, became president, and then we actually went to school district meetings with like all the high school and all their other presidents and vice presidents and stuff, so we can get like books and funding for our school for projects and things like that. And it was radical, man, because like we just basically went to his house and got fucked up. We drank beers and got high, and then we go to these like school meetings. It was radical. I mean, like all these presidents, and they're just like, who the fuck are these fucking kids? And like, we're just all, hey, what's up?
But I guarantee you got a better education than like most high school kids. Guaranteed.
Oh yeah, it was awesome. And I did eventually, graduate. I couldn't attend our graduation, unfortunately, because I was on tour that following year in '88. So went on tour in '87, and then I was again on tour in '88. And I had finished all my credits before we went on tour.
Yeah.
So
it's funny. Some of the teachers at those schools are like sometimes end up being some of the best teachers because they didn't cut it in the regular schools because they didn't want to follow the curriculums, and they wanted to do like some real teaching and stuff like that. And they get banished to schools, like, in quotes, banished to schools like that. At least I know that's how it happened out here, and it ends up working out.
It really does, man. I mean, those teachers and the staff and everybody were just so cool, and they really had a passion for helping kids, helping troubled kids, and they really changed a lot of lives. And I think that was like really must have been super rewarding for them,
Had to be,
to do that type of stuff. I'm sure Doc was like, yes, I convinced his parents to let him go to Europe.
Oh, yeah.
And then maybe when he was at home having his whiskey at the end of the night, he's like, oh shit, what the fuck did I do?
Doc's my new favorite human being, by the way. But
Doc was awesome, man. Everybody
cool.
loved Doc. He was kick ass. He was a shit for sure.
All right, Joe, I'm going to ask you 3 questions that we ask everybody that's on the show. So,
oh no,
now they're easy
fun.
questions. They're fun, yeah. And they're kind of weird, but so okay. The first question is: if you were on death row, what would your final meal be?
Ooh, oh, that's interesting. Never really even thought about that. I mean, I love all kinds of fucking food, so this is rough.
And it changes to all, like a lot of the answers to all 3 of these questions consistently change. Yeah.
I bet. the possibilities are endless. I'm sure that people on death row are probably doing the same thing I'm doing now. Like, what the fuck am I getting? Like anything you fucking want, you know? And of course, you're gonna have to get like you know, a 5-course meal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it has to be like, it has to run the gauntlet of like anything that you can get, right? Fuck, man. This is a very good question, actually.
I always feel like I want to say lobster, but then I'm like, but wait, are they going to cook lobster correctly in jail?
Yeah.
Can they get lobster where they're at?
Because lobster can be very bad if cooked wrong, you know?
Exactly. And then you have prison cooks doing it, which
I don't know.
Which is usually, prison cooks are usually the inmates.
Yeah.
Right.
It can be, I think for the most part.
I'm gonna have to look into this. I'm gonna have to see if they actually bring in like
actual chefs. Yeah. Because I mean, well, maybe they do takeout, because I would imagine there's people who are like, oh, just give me a fucking Big Mac from McDonald's. It's not like they're gonna make a Big Mac, they're just gonna go get one, so maybe they just do takeout or something.
Well, Fat Mike's was a Whopper, that's what he said.
That is right.
And that had crossed my mind too. I had thought like, well, like what is like your favorite fast food joint, right? Mm-hmm. Because I think for most inmates, they're probably going to want to, like immediately when they get out or on parole or something, they want to go to their favorite like fast food restaurant, right? Because it's fast, it's easy, and it's everywhere. So it's
fast,
like
easy, cheap.
Boom, you're out and you can find one no matter how, and it's consistent.
Yeah. Yep. And if you're gonna die, then why do you have to be health conscious? Like, give me fucking 4 monster thick burgers from Hardee's. Fuck it.
Yeah, exactly. So that had crossed my mind. Like, what fast food joint would I order from? Right.
You don't need to be health conscious at all in this choice. It's just taste. This is all pure taste.
Yeah, exactly. And then, dude, fuck. That's a really, really good question. So I think and this might not be my final answer, but this is what popped into my mind almost immediately. Mm-hmm. Is I think I'd have just a gnarly breakfast.
Nice.
You know what I mean? Like with
classic breakfast.
A classic breakfast with everything and maybe multiple entrees, right? Mm-hmm. So definitely an omelet. Yeah, for sure. Right.
What's in your omelet?
What's in your omelet?
Eggs. What's in my omelet?
This is an important question.
Of course, I think I'd have to go with the Denver.
Nice.
Classic.
I think I'd have to go with the classic Denver omelet. And then, of course, I'd have to have fried eggs with it, over easy, like I like them.
Oh, yeah.
With
runny yolk.
A little bit of runny yolk with wheat toast, so you can dip it in there. It would have to be Canadian bacon, sausage, and regular bacon, of course. Just pretty much like the whole thing. And then like almost like a Rudy Tooty fresh and fruity type of thing with a waffle too, with just like like strawberry topping, whipped cream, the whole 9 on there, and then it'd have to be pancakes too to go with the sauce.
What about any kind of home fries or anything? Any kind of potato?
Are you a hash guy? Yeah.
I like burnt hash browns.
They're nice and crispy.
I always tell them nice and crispy. Always
well done. Yep.
You know what I mean? But I'd have to go for the country potatoes too, and it would have to be like with sautéed onions in it and bell peppers and the whole 9. And those need to be crispy as well. So I would go with both of those.
I'm into this.
I'm gonna say, like, this is the 145th episode we've done, That's the best answer to this question we've ever had.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
It's the most into I've ever been. I'll tell you that much.
because breakfast, I mean, come on, right? And like you can think of it this way too. It's like you're waking up to your last day on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What better than fucking breakfast? And of course, you know, a cup of coffee, orange juice, milk, you know, like the whole night, even a smoothie. And I don't know if they give you a drink or not, but fucking endless mimosas.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, mimosas is shit. Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
So mimosas over Bloody Mary for you?
Yes,
Okay.
always.
Gotcha.
Pinkies out.
Gotcha.
Yeah, fuck yeah, pinkies up.
All right.
It's just so much more refreshing. And then when you're like
It
loading
is.
yourself up with food,
Yeah.
and then usually when you're doing that, you're fucking hungover, right? So you need hair of the dog. Mimosa goes down way better, less acidic and super gnarly, and won't fuck with your stomach with all the shit you're eating too.
Totally.
Yeah.
And
Awesome.
you know, I don't even know if vitamin C actually exists in a mimosa, but hey, it may help with the hangover.
Yeah.
It depends. It depends on what your juice is, I guess. And some juices have more vitamin C than others.
Yeah.
And how light you like to go with the mimosas. Like
Yeah.
Kelly, my girlfriend, likes to go just a splash of pineapple juice, and I like to go a little bit deeper with the juice because I like the juice flavor, and
Gotcha.
it's easier to wash down your breakfast with. So I go like half. But
Nice.
I always ask them to bring me the champagne and then the juice on the side.
Are you a solely orange juice guy for your mimosas, or do you go other juice?
I go pineapple juice with mine.
That's a good choice. That's a good choice.
Or Pog, because whenever you're in Hawaii or Maui or whatever, right?
Pineapple, watermelon, pineapple,
orange guava.
Well, orange guava.
Nice.
So Pog is sweet too, but like that's really a Hawaiian thing. But I would go pineapple juice traditionally.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's a good choice.
Hell yeah. That's
Good choice.
definitely the best answer to that question we've ever had. All right.
Woo!
Second question is
All right. So I'm gonna totally blow this one.
all right, now that you're dead. So this is something that they actually
Now
do
that
this
you're
now.
dead.
They actually do this now. So if you get cremated, they could take your ashes and form it into a vinyl record. People do that. So if you were going to have your ashes eternalized in a record of your choice, which album would you pick? It's got to be an album that exists.
Oh, okay. So it can't be like an album of like
your personal greatest hits.
Yeah.
It can't be that.
And it can't be the music that had never been released. That's my own.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's got to be
an album that exists.
Okay. All right. This is also a tough one too,
Mm-hmm.
because whenever people ask me in like top 10 lists or top 20 or whatever, it's so hard to choose, right?
Yeah.
They
I have
change.
like 20
They
answers
change
to this question.
Yeah, they change on a
What
daily basis depending on your mood, you know. But as your mood sees it right now.
Yeah. So I can tell you what fucking top contenders there are.
Okay.
You know, and the top contenders would be, and all the punk rockers are gonna fucking hate me for these answers right now, but I haven't chosen anything yet, so calm down. Okay, Rush 2112 on like near the top of the list.
It's a good album. Great
Van
album.
Halen's first album.
What? Say that again.
Van Halen's first album.
Okay, gotcha.
Fuck yeah, that is a fucking amazing album.
But it for Rush, it could be two. It could be Moving Pictures or 2112.
Gotcha.
Let's see. But I gotta choose one.
Is he your favorite bass player?
Geddy Lee,
Geddy Lee?
he's one of my favorite bass players.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, for sure. Definitely influenced by him. I have to go back actually to the albums that I grew up with.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like that mean the most to me. influentially, like
Yeah.
at a time, I think when I've been more like a sponge, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? And so I'm sure a lot of punk rockers that you guys have, they'll pick their favorite punk record. But for me, I think I have to go back to my childhood and like think of like the album that
Mhm.
that was the most influential, that got me into like heavy music, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like into rock, or like into that style that kind of progressed to metal and rock and things like that.
Mine is Michael Jackson Thriller.
And that's
Because-
a fucking great album.
Because I remember the premiere of the Thriller video was the first time I became like, I was like, music is the coolest shit ever.
yeah.
So like that's like, yeah, that's not punk rock at all. But
No.
yeah.
Yeah, but that's a great choice, because
Yeah.
that is still my favorite Michael Jackson record
Yeah.
to this day. Off the Wall is good too, though.
It is.
It's really good. Okay, so to be this is like when I'm already dead, so I need to take that into account as well. So I got it.
Okay.
AC/DC Highway to Hell.
Nice.
Great record.
Hell yeah.
Great record. Great record.
Yeah,
And plus it has that death thing in there too, the Highway to Hell thing. So
Yeah. Fuck yeah. That's a great
Hell
record. That might be their best, actually.
yeah, for me, I think it is like it, and the Black Album too, you know.
That's a good one. I really like Razor's Edge as well. Or are you talking about, you're not, when you say Black Album, you're talking about AC/DC, right? Or were you?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not talking about Metallica.
Yeah, okay. Just making sure.
But Highway to Hell, yeah, that's my final answer.
Cool.
It's a good choice. And that's the first, actually, that's the first answer of, I think, any AC/DC record.
It is.
That we've had to answer that question, I believe. Yeah. Which is rad, because I feel like that should have already been an answer.
Oh yeah, you're killing these questions, man.
Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah, well, AC/DC for me, like my brother, like, you know, he listened to tons of rock, and like I said before, I was highly influential by his music choices, you know. So there was a lot of Sabbath in there too. There was like a lot of Jimi Hendrix. There's a lot of like Zeppelin, you know. And in fact, John Paul Jones, still one of my favorite bass players of all time. Like, I think he influenced me before I was even a bass player, because I would listen to those bass lines as if they were like the most important part of the record. Like, people are all like Jimmy Page, of course Bonham, but those were grooves, you know, like those were riffs and grooves. Like for me, John Paul Jones, he added all the melodic shit to those songs.
Yeah.
You know, he really did. But AC/DC, like, my brother always got like the first albums, like, you know what I mean? High Voltage, and Let There Be Rock, Dirty Deeds. I mean, all the early stuff before Highway to Hell. And when Highway to Hell, just like, fuck, man, this album rips.
Yeah.
You know? So there was a lot of AC/DC in my life, and I believe I probably own like 10 AC/DC t-shirts.
Nice.
That's
awesome.
I mean, rightfully so. They fucking rock.
Yeah, they do.
Totally.
All right, final question. Who is on your Mount Rushmore of punk rock? You get 5 people, you get a crazy horse. You get the 4 presidents and the crazy horse. So 5 people.
Oh man.
Who would make up
and you know, what's punk rock is pretty objective. So like, don't think you can't think outside of the box on this. Like, you know, and this is just an example, but since we talked about Rush earlier, like if Geddy Lee was on it, that's fine. It doesn't you know, you get it.
Well, I mean, there are some musicians who cross over, right? Who were, you know, like weren't exactly in the genre, but probably listened to punk rock. Their bands probably sounded like punk rock. Maybe they were even in punk rock bands or at some point or another, or played in a punk band, right? But these are very good questions, guys. These are really hard
Thanks.
questions. So.
This one's probably the hardest of the.
I think this one's hard because you got to think of like 5 people, right?
Yeah, on the spot.
So,
Yeah.
and then mine are all probably going to be bass players.
That's cool.
You know, because the first person that comes to mind for me is Lemmy.
Mm.
Yep.
You know,
sure.
is that the first
Yep.
Lemmy we've ever had?
No.
You
it's
sure?
not. Positive.
Okay. All right.
Positive. He's happened, I think, twice.
Good.
Before,
Okay,
at
good.
least. Yeah. At least twice.
Definitely Lemmy is the first one for sure.
Mhm.
And to me, that Lemmy is totally punk rock.
Oh hell yeah.
Yep. The embodiment of pretty much.
Yeah, for sure. And then I would have to say that the next person would be Iggy Pop.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
And
Also-
I'm sure there's probably been so many people who've said Iggy Pop.
I don't know if there's been so many.
There's been a
people,
few.
but there has been a few. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not as many as you would think, which is odd, but enough.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go for like punk rock history, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You could do like Wayne Kramer or Joey Ramone, somebody like that, you know what I mean? But I think Iggy Pop, I think the Stooges basically wrote the first punk record with their
I
self.
think you're right. I agree.
Watching them play Seek and Destroy live at the Grammys was the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It just I was like, what's happening right now?
Iggy looks really weird these days. He looks like, you know, he could be an extra in any Alien movie whatsoever. And no offense, Iggy. I mean, still, you still got a better physique than I do.
Yeah.
I can't take my shirt off. You still can. So we got Iggy, we got Lemmy, and Iggy's not a bass player. God damn it! I kind of wanted them all to be bass players. But can't win them all. But I guess I could still go punk rock history and say Dee Dee Ramone.
Nice.
Also an excellent choice.
Dee Dee Ramone, because he's basically kind of my favorite bass player.
Yeah.
You know, I would even say Sid Vicious too, just because he's like the quintessential, you know, punk rock bass player. I mean, that's the reason why I still wear spiky hairs, because he wore spiky hair. But he's the shittiest fucking bass player on the planet too.
I know you never heard me play bass. So.
Was that 3?
That's 4.
That's 4.
So you got one more.
You got your crazy horse now.
Yeah.
I got my crazy horse now.
Mm-hmm.
This one's gonna be tough because now I gotta be really smart with my choice on this one. All right, well, check this out. I got it.
All right.
It's gonna be Balmer Manzula.
Hell yeah.
Good choice.
Because he taught me basically everything that I know. He is a bass player, and a fucking drum, and everything else, and highly influential. So many people don't even know how influential he is to like modern day.
Yep.
And then I might want to rescind Iggy Pop to have all bass players in here now.
Yeah, do it.
Right.
So the question is, like, what other shredder?
To me, there's only 2.
I know one you're thinking of immediately. I don't know if I know this.
We're talking to him.
Oh, okay.
I'm not gonna put myself on. That's too narcissistic.
I know the other one Ron's talking about. I know.
Yeah.
Matt Freeman.
Matt Freeman, Joe Raposo. I say.
Well, I thank you so much for.
Yeah.
You know, I feel honored to be in the same caliber for sure. Yeah, and Matt is fucking excellent. He's awesome, and he's a peer, and you know, there's
Mhm.
always been like this, like kind of like unspoken rivalry between us, you know.
Yeah.
But he's a good sport, and he's a great bass player. But for me, it's not Matt Freeman.
Okay. It's just to recap. We have Lemmy, Dee Dee, Sid Vicious, and Bomber, and you're working on your fifth.
I'm working on my fifth, and they're all going to be
Yeah.
bass players.
Yep.
I do love that they're all bass players.
I do love that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to keep it. I need to keep it all bass here, just so you know, just so to keep it consistent.
The backbone of the punk rock band.
Love it.
Exactly. This is tough, guys. It's tough.
Yeah, then it is. This one is a tough question for sure.
Because I also want this player to be an originator. I want him to have been around for a long time.
I really enjoy that you care this much about this question.
Yeah.
I do. I that is
Yeah,
honest.
totally.
I love it.
All right, I have it down. I have it down to 2. There's a 3 thrown in there, but even though I think that the 3rd is kind of a wild card, and I think he's punk rock as fuck too, and he's also someone from the Bay Area, but I want like a classic bass player that influenced me in the like 80s. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you that my wild card is Les Claypool.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
I mean, dude's a master.
He's ridiculous. Yeah.
Dude is a master.
Yeah.
You know, and then another wild card kind of is thrown into the circle too. I almost have to choose this now, and I just thought of it just because I thought of Les Claypool's style. And I know a lot of people are probably going to hate me for this, but this bass player was heavily influential to me as a bass player growing up, even before I started playing in bands, and even before I even started playing bass too. So this is the person that I'm gonna put.
Okay.
And he is a punk rocker because he played in Fear.
Okay.
Oh. Okay. Fuck yeah.
It's Flea.
Yeah.
Hell
Fuck yeah.
He's a punk rocker, dude, for sure.
Yeah. Through and
Fuck
through.
Yeah.
And
Fuck yeah.
he was in a Star Wars. Just saying.
Yeah, and then my runner ups were Carl Alvarez
Nice.
Yep. Solid choice.
and Rob Wright from No Means No.
Also a solid choice.
Awesome.
I love it. Like, break all the fucking rules. Who are we to call ourselves punk rockers if we're not going to break a few fucking rules, especially our own here and there? You know,
Please abuse. Yeah.
that's what we do.
Totally. So what do we got? We got Lemmy.
Mhm.
We got Dee Dee.
Dee Dee.
Sid Vicious.
Yep.
Mhm.
Bomber and
And
Flea.
Flea. Yep. That's solid.
That's
That is
that's
solid.
greatest.
rock,
Yeah.
rock wall of fame right there.
Yep.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Awesome, man. Joe, thanks so much for doing this, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
no worries. It was a lot of fun talking
And
with you guys.
Yeah,
Same.
Joe, for all listeners, everybody knows he also plays in a band called Lagwagon, which we never even got to tonight.
Yeah, we
but
didn't even get to.
that's
yeah.
all right.
Well, there's a lot of history here. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
like we could talk for hours, basically. It was,
I know.
you know, like, I mean, it was crazy. I mean, just recently, I got to play with Milo on stage playing Descendants.
I saw the pictures for that. Yeah, that's cool.
You know, so I mean, from like what a crazy journey I've had.
Yeah.
And I hope I play more shows with Face to Face. I mean, Scott is an amazing fucking bass player. He's
Yeah.
super gnarly, and he's an even better guitar player in my opinion. So if he's gonna play more songs, why do I keep on saying songs? more shows with Eagles of Death Metal. I hope Face to Face calls me back, because I had a lot of fun playing with them too, and I have a lot of fun playing Scott's bass lines. So
Damn, Josh Homan stealing all these punk rockers for his bands.
right.
Well, Would you want to come back on at some point and start off where you finished here and say Joe Raposo history part 2, like the Lagwagon years?
If you want to, I mean,
Yeah,
sure.
we
This
would
is
love to
fun.
at some point.
Plus-
we have
plus-
return guests all the time.
Yeah.
Plus, I could be naked because you guys are
Fuck
like
yeah.
Yeah,
on just doing a podcast for radio, right? And-
Audio only. Yeah.
audio
and-
only.
yeah, that'll be
It's
awesome.
optional.
Yeah, so we can do this anytime. Like I was kind of worried because, like, I was like, fuck, man, I'm gonna have to take a shower.
No.
Nope.
No.
I'm
No
gonna have to
showers
shave
necessary.
to look respectable for people. Like,
Not at all.
no, I know. Like, I don't even need to do that. I mean, that's so on punk rock, right?
Well, thanks again, Joe, and we really appreciate it.
thank
And
you.
we'll definitely have you back on in the future. Talk about Lagwagon,
Yeah.
Yeah,
which
for
we never
sure.
even got to.
Yeah.
No worries,
All
man.
right. Take care, man, and good luck with everything.
Oh, thank you very much, and thanks a lot, guys. This has
Yep.
been a pleasure. for me
Awesome.
too.
Thank you.
Lars, take it
Bye,
easy.
guys.
brother.
Later. Thanks for hanging out for another week. Be sure to check out punkboxrocks.com and merchslut.com. Check us out on all social media outlets at Our Brains Hurt and at ourbrainshurt.com. We will talk to you next week. Stay safe. Adios.
How do I do this shit? I can still hear you. So what do I have to press? Close.